Yo, what's up? We are back at the Shits Podcast, so we're either shooting the shit, starting some shit, or picking up where shit left off. Yo, I'm your host, Monsoon Staraw, the coolest cat you heard thus far. Ayo, this week, it's just me in the studio by myself. I ain't got my man Bubba Ball with me. However, we got a very, very special guest to the podcast this week. I heard about this phenomenal individual story, and I was like, yo, this dude sound cool as fuck. I gotta get this dude on the podcast. He got an interesting story to tell, and I'm really eager for you guys to hear it. And before I bring him on, I want to give a shout out real quick to My Radio Chicago. It's powered through Support District Radio. Yo, download the app. Excuse me. Download the app at Support District Radio, My Radio Chicago. Phenomenal radio show, dope personalities playing exclusive music, organic music, the hot shit. Y'all gotta check it out. Also, shout out to the Block 105 Radio, www.theblock105.com. And everybody hit up the website, theshitspodcast.com. And independent artists, send your music into dopemusicshits@gmail.com if you want to get your music played. But until then, yo, I'm eager to jump into this. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest to the podcast this week is an author. Not only is he an author, he also plays in a band. We're gonna talk about that later. But I want to talk to this man about his travels. He got an interesting story to tell. The author of Confessions of an Ethical Drug Dealer, ladies and gentlemen, Jimi Fritz.
Hello, how you doing? Greetings from Vancouver, Canada.
Yes. How you doing?
Pretty good.
That's cool. So, but before we go any further, I want to ask a question because when I read the title of the book, I was like, wow, the statute of limitations must really go off. So why Confessions of an Ethical Drug Dealer?
Well, it's an intentionally provocative title, and it's just basically, to get attention. But what I wanted to draw attention to is that there's a whole other world of drug users and drug dealers that have nothing to do with, what you hear on the news. And the street drugs and the addictive drugs. There's a whole other world out there, which I've been associated with for 50 years. Mm-hmm. And these are a bunch of responsible adults who use psychedelics to enhance and improve the quality of their life. So I wanted to show that side of the story. Everybody I know basically has, been a psychedelic drug user, but almost everybody I've ever known.
Okay.
And there's been no problem, they have no problems with this. There's none of the addiction problems. They're not trying to mask trauma. They do this for exactly the opposite reasons that people do the addictive, more harmful drugs. So I wanted to use my life as an example of presenting an honest look at psychedelics from a more realistic viewpoint, especially in light of what's going on with psychedelics these days in terms of all the research and all the therapy that's going on, and all the new developments which are even too numerous to mention at this point. But so we're looking at a new age of psychedelic psychotherapy, and people are using psychedelics in new and wonderful ways, and they're improving and enhancing the quality of their lives. So that side of the story needs to be told, as well as, most people just hear about addicts on the street. Right. I've never had anything to do with that life.
So why do you think psychedelics get a bad rap?
Well, it's mainly because they're lumped in with, people talk about drugs and they're not very specific about what they're talking about. So it's drugs, and they're all bad and they're all addictive, and you've got to stay away from them all. We have this puritanical attitude and this war on drugs which has fueled this attitude. And it's not very useful because some of these substances have very, very practical uses, which have been largely ignored and understudied because they've been illegal, because all the drugs are made illegal. But we do have very dangerous legal drugs as well in the form of
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
we don't worry about that, right?
No, not at all, not at all. So you know what? I mean, I don't want to switch topics. I mean, I think it still is on the topic because you said we have very dangerous legal drugs as well. So I do want to get your opinion on the vaccine.
The vaccine?
Yes.
Well, I'm a science-based person, so as far as that goes, I'm not willing to put in 30 years studying epidemiology and infectious diseases to come up with my own opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do with most things is I look at the scientific consensus. So there's a scientific consensus in the world right now with every major medical organization in every country, and they all agree that these vaccines are safe and effective, and that they're appropriate to combat this, extraordinary situation with the pandemic. So
Okay.
I'm double vaccinated and recommend everybody does the same.
Okay, that's cool. So, how did you get your start as far as I want to say dealing?
Well, I started when I was 15 years old because I tried hash for the first time.
Okay.
And I thought, this stuff is great. I got to get some more of this. So I figured out a way of how I could get it for myself, basically. So I'd buy a quarter ounce of hashish, chop it up into 7 grams, sell 3 or 4, and keep the rest.
At 15?
Yeah.
Well, you were innovative.
Yeah, but it was a way of getting hash so I could smoke it and get it for free. So that was the original impetus. And then down the road, like I say, almost everybody I've ever known has been experimenting with psychedelics. So I was interested in looking out safe sources and finding responsible people that had them, and then testing them, and then disseminating them to friends and family, basically, at first, and then expanded out from there. So I did that for a good number of years, but I since retired.
Okay. So I figure it's safe to say. Well, I figure it's safe to ask this question: who did you get it from when you was 15?
Well, different sources I've had. I've been very lucky with that because I've known people like when I was promoting raves and selling MDMA, I was fortunate enough to be quite close to a lab. And so I knew what I was getting. I was getting it in a pure form. I was, processing it myself. And so I knew exactly what it was, and I knew there were no additives in it, which is a big problem with street drugs, of course. With anything you buy on the street, it can be adulterated. It's much less of a problem with psychedelics generally, but it is a problem. So yeah, I used to buy a batch, and then I used to test it on myself. And if it worked out and it was fine, I had a system where I'd take 125 milligrams of MDMA, go to the club, drop it at exactly 10 o'clock, go dance till 2, and then that was my test. That was my tester. And if it worked out, then I sold it to my friends, and if it didn't, I didn't.
Yeah, that was my next question, because I was like, well, what would have happened if it didn't work out?
Well, then I'd take it back. And then having a good relationship with the people I've dealt with, I've always had to be able to return anything that wasn't satisfactory, and I've always offered that to everybody I've ever sold anything to. I've given them a complete money back guarantee.
Okay, well that's great business. You would get an awesome review on Yelp for stuff like that.
That's right. I had really satisfied customers for many years. I had people that would never buy anything from anybody else, and I had customers for 25 years.
Wow.
Never bought from anybody else at all because they trusted me, and I was put in the work to make sure that everything was safe.
Okay. So I heard you mention the raves.
Yeah.
So you were promoting raves, right?
Yes.
How did you get into the business of that?
Well, I discovered raves when I was 40 years old, and so I did MDMA for the first time. I went to my first rave and I discovered electronic dance music, and the same night.
Oh wow!
So a friend of mine's son actually came to see me and said there's this new thing called rave. rave music is completely new and you should come and check it out. So I did. And sort of changed my life for quite a while after that. Had a very powerful experience and got very interested in it. So much so that I ended up writing a book about it called Rave Culture, An Insider's Overview by Jimi Fritz.
Okay.
Fine bookstores everywhere.
So you said, I heard you say you got introduced to it at 40.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so, and I may be ignorant to it, so excuse me if I am. I just look at it, I thought that raves were considered like the, for the youngsters, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I thought of it as. So, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's how it started out. But there was a maturing of rave culture over time, and it was one of the unique things about rave culture is it was super inclusive.
Okay.
So everybody was welcome. Nobody was sort of out of place at a rave, no matter what kind of different areas they came from. They could be all kinds of different areas, but they would come together, and that all went out the window. Once everybody was on MDMA and tuned into the music and into this group mind experience, all those categories and all those definitions went out the window. Everybody was on the same page and everybody was equal, and that was one of the really unifying things about the experience.
That had to be, it seems like that was a beautiful experience. Like, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I've never tried hash. I've never tried MDMA. I've never tried MDMA, but I would guess that from what I've seen with the raves, and you just having this feeling of like euphoria and having all these people around you that's on the same thing you on, like that has to be a beautiful experience. It seems like it. It just seems
it's
like
very, very therapeutic. And in the years that I was involved with rave culture and producing events, I was, I would see people's lives transform routinely.
Okay.
And you'd see these amazing transformations happen with people through the experience. And that was an amazing thing, because most people are pretty disconnected, right?
Yeah.
We have a lot of alienation in all walks of society. Everyone's been alienated. They're not connecting on an authentic level. At the rave, that all goes out the window, and for the first time, sometimes the first time in their lives, they actually felt connected on a personal level, on an intimate level. Sometimes with complete strangers, but there's this connection of empathy, which MDMA generates this, great feeling of empathy with other people, also with yourself. So you feel fantastic, and then you feel connected to everybody else, and all your preconceptions and prejudices go out the window really quick. And then you see yourself and everybody else, and you have this wonderful feeling of unity and connection, which is very, very healing, because most people don't get that in their lives.
Right.
Most people are just cut off. It's a valuable experience for most of them. I saw so many people's lives change for the better through that experience.
Wow.
That's why I wanted to write the book, because I said, this is incredible. People need to know about this. So I wrote a book about it to basically tell the world what was going on an underground level.
And then I'm thinking, just not with psychedelic drugs, but also with the music, like that had to play a huge part in that to not just have that feeling in your body from the drugs, but also the vibrations from the music going at the same time, and being in there with all these people. It's like, that's like, wow, like I'm hoping, and I would hope so, I believe so, that you were able to convey that message in the book and get people to feel that, you know what I'm saying, the same feeling that you felt.
Yeah, absolutely. The music is essential, of course, and some music works better than others. Most of the big parties were progressive house and progressive trance, and it's a specific kind of electronic dance music that creates a kind of momentum, a musical momentum that sweeps you up, and then it builds and builds and builds to a crescendo, and then it builds and builds and builds again, and the euphoria is enhanced with that musical experience. So it's music that you really experience rather than listen to.
Right. So if I have this correctly, you were organizing these events,
Yeah.
though, right?
Well, I started going to parties, and then the promoters that I enjoyed and the parties that they were doing, which I really liked, they kind of stopped doing them.
Okay.
So if I wanted to have those kinds of events, I had to do them myself. But I did it a slightly different way. I didn't do public events. I didn't do, I didn't sell tickets to anybody.
Okay.
I formed an underground rave cult.
I mean, it's smart. Yeah, I mean, it's smart as hell.
It was just to keep the vibe tight, because I didn't want anybody just busting in. I wanted people that were on the right page and doing it for the right reasons.
Right.
And so I formed an organization called SPEC,
Okay.
which was the Society for the Perpetuation of Empathogenic Celebration.
Whew.
And
I like that.
the prerequisite for membership, we have membership cards. Prerequisite for membership was you had to be certified 100% cool and groovy. By me.
Okay. They had to get Jimmy's stamp of approval, huh?
That's right.
So were you doing it? Were you doing it by yourself, or did you have a team of people?
I had a team of people. I mean, I was, the main organizer. I was the captain of the ship.
Okay.
But I had a great crew, and after a while, I did probably about 30 events, one a month for a couple of years.
Okay.
And had a really good team of people, the sound people, and got so was very easy to organize. Once I found the location, which is the hardest part,
Right.
then
Right.
I would just make a call to the sound people, make a call to the visuals people, make a call to the cleanup staff, and blah blah blah. It was pretty much a turnkey operation after a bunch of parties. It came together very easily.
Right. So I heard you say that you didn't really use a like the traditional method of promoting. Like it was more like the cards, you know what I'm saying? Like you just really damn near like handpicking people.
It was invite only and membership only. But if you were a member, you could bring 2 guests.
Right.
And you were completely responsible for those 2 guests.
I like that. I like
So
that.
there was a problem with either of those 2 people. You had to take care of it. That was the other unique thing about the spec parties was that everybody was security. I never hired security for an event.
Oh, that's beautiful.
We had people at
And
the
cost
greeting
efficient.
people and welcoming them, but there was no searches, there was no security. Everybody was responsible for everybody else, and if something came up, everybody took care of it instantly. Never had a problem, never had an issue.
So it was still, what I'm hearing is, it was still that theme of being connected, even with that. You know what I'm saying? Because
Exactly.
everybody was responsible for each other.
Yeah, creating that climate of freedom.
Right. So do you think that if you were to use social media the way people use social media nowadays, do you think those parties would have been as successful?
Well, I used a group email, so I had 300 people on a group email.
Oh, wow.
And I would contact them through that. So that's not so different than using a Facebook group, for instance. You could use a private Facebook group and have members come onto that. So that would be pretty similar.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I wouldn't like to advertise a public event through social media because you get every nut job in the world showing up.
There you go.
And you
There you
don't
go.
want that.
I mean, I think it's commendable that you guys didn't have issues and you didn't have to hire security. So I feel like just that fact right there is something that people should kind of think about and kind of build off of, because it'll save a lot of money in security. Did you ever organize these events like when you were under the influence?
No, I only ever did MDMA at parties.
Okay.
After I used to do the door and I used to welcome people, and then they come in, and then we had a rule like at midnight we'd lock the doors. Nobody else came in.
Oh.
You had to be there before midnight. You had to be committed to the whole night. It wasn't drop in and drop out kind of
Right.
thing. So it was a committed group of people there for a specific committed purpose.
Okay.
And so we used to lock the door at 12 o'clock. Nobody else came in. And then, Yeah, and then I'd do some eat and dance the night away.
That shit sounds fabulous.
And then there were the after parties.
Oh, wait. You said that was the after party?
No, that was, and then after the event, we have an after party.
Oh my goodness.
Then we go to the after party, do a little bit of LSD, and go through the day, and then have an early night the next night.
Hey man, every sentence that you say, you become cooler and cooler and fucking cooler. Like, for real. So, let me ask you this. What was the earliest you would get in the house? After all this, the party, the after party, what was the earliest you would get home?
Well, the parties used to start at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
And they used to go till 7 in the morning.
Holy wow.
And then we do clean up and get out of there by about 9. And then the after party would go from 9,
That is awesome.
And then we'd have an early night.
That is awesome. So nobody even thought about going to the breakfast spot. It was just like,
no, nobody was very hungry.
That is cool. That is cool. So I also heard you speak about the music. So in your opinion, how important is the music to the environment? Like, because I know you have the drugs and you have the music. How important is the music with the drugs as far as a rave goes?
Yeah, well, that's sort of what made rave culture, and what made it unique was this perfect marriage between house music and MDMA, and then this climate of freedom. We had those together, and when the elements were right, everybody would be united in the same experience, and it would be just like this huge, pulsing mass of humanity in exactly the same frame of mind, exactly the same place, exactly the same feeling. And it was an incredible transcendental group mind experience.
Yeah.
So when it's done right, that happens. And the music is essential to that because it creates that musical momentum, that musical journey that you go on.
Yeah.
And you get swept up in it. And once you're swept up, you can't, it's like a train, you can't get off.
I mean, it seems like you wouldn't want to. You know what I'm saying?
No, I used to pick a spot, like in the early days, it was like the first few years, I would go to parties, pick a spot, I could walk to the front of the station speakers, and then walk back until I got a perfect stereo image. And that was the spot.
Okay.
And I'd be rooted to that spot for 7 hours.
Wow.
Tea break and get some water, but basically that was the spot for the night. And I'd just go on this incredible, I've done a fair bit of meditation in my life.
Okay.
And I understand the benefits of meditation, but some of the experiences I had at raves were some of the most powerful meditation experiences I ever had.
Okay.
I was so connected, I was so in the moment, I was so mind wide open that it's a very powerful experience. It was a life-changing experience.
So, I heard you speak about meditation, and I was thinking about something that Russell Simmons had said before, and he was saying that everyone should take at least 40 minutes out of their day to just completely do nothing and just meditate. Like, you set that time aside to do nothing. Like, how important do you think meditation is?
I think it's a great skill, and I think everybody could learn how to do it. It's not that easy to learn how to do, though, and I think a lot of people are just sort of relaxing. And that has value too. If you just sit quietly and just relax and clear your mind, and I mean that has some value as well. It's stressing, it makes you feel renewed energy or whatever. But meditation is a bit more concentrated than that. It takes a bit more effort. You can actually work up a sweat meditating.
Really?
Right. Yeah.
So can you tell me what you think is the difference, and like what are we doing wrong?
Well, it's a question of attention. You're not doing nothing. You're focusing your mind on one point of attention, and that's why there's various techniques that use a candle or a mandala or a chanting.
Okay.
It occupies your mind 100%. And once your mind is completely occupied and focused on one point of attention, then everything else falls away. The thoughts come and they go and they go. And the practice is to not be attached to those thoughts. So anything that comes up, you let it go, and then you let go of the letting go. And then you become completely still and peaceful, and you find that place. And once you found that place, you can get back to it much more easily. And then you can use it in your life. If you're stressed out, wherever you get that, you can use it to understand your own mind.
Okay.
But it takes a bit of practice. My son is a Vipassana meditator, and he's the youngest, him and his wife Sonia are the youngest teachers in North America. And they tour around and they teach Vipassana meditation, which specializes in this the technique, supposedly, the original technique of the Buddha, who was basically a meditation teacher. And they do a 10-day retreat. And the idea of a 10-day intensive, like for 10 days you meditate basically for about 10 hours a day.
Okay.
And you don't speak, you don't make eye contact with anybody, you don't read, you don't write, you don't think, you don't do anything. It's basically 24-hour meditation for 10 days. And the idea is that it takes that kind of intensity and focus to actually achieve a state of real meditation. So at the end of the 10 days, you pretty much know how to meditate. And then you can apply it to your life however you see fit. Some people do more of it and less of it. But I sort of have it as a tool in my tool bag and pull it out when I need it. I don't do a daily practice.
Okay, because I was thinking about that. Like, I know it's times that I will kind of like sit by myself and really try to focus on things, but sometimes my mind it wanders. You know what I'm saying? So I thought about what you said about being focused on like one thing. You know what I'm saying? Like really just staying focused on that one thing. So with that being said, how do you think psychedelic drugs help you with that?
Yeah, I think psychedelic drugs can be, can be a similar kind of experience if you use them in that way. So, psychedelics don't have like a uniform effect. It's not like a magic pill, but you can use them to focus. Like LSD, for instance, like a low dose LSD is a great focusing tool if you use it in that way. So if you use it in meditation, you can have a much stronger, more powerful meditation because you're kind of amplifying. LSD is an amplifier. It amplifies your mind. It amplifies what's going on. So whatever your mind is occupied in, if it's occupied in mindfulness or one point attention or meditation, it can actually focus that and amplify it.
Okay.
So it can be used in that way.
Is it safe to say it could also kind of be like a terrifying experience if your mind is...
If you do too much in the wrong place, yeah, but that's because of irresponsible use.
Okay.
If you use them properly in the right dosage and frequency and in the right setting, you're going almost impossible to have a bad experience. Okay. Unless you have tendencies or mental illness or you have tendencies for psychosis.
Yeah.
If you have tendencies for psychosis or schizophrenia or whatever, you shouldn't do psychedelics at all.
Makes sense.
You need to be reasonably psychologically, stable, and you need to be ready for the experience and up for it. Leary talks about set and setting. So set is the mindset, the frame of mind you're in, setting is your environment.
Okay.
If those two things are good, it's almost impossible to have a bad trip. Bad trips happen when you take it irresponsibly. You're in the wrong place at the wrong time. You don't take 2 hits of acid to go see a horror movie.
Makes sense. I mean, unless you...
That's a mistake.
Unless you really want to be freaked out. Right. I mean, like, I think about it, like, because, like I said, only thing I've ever done is weed. I've only smoked weed. So I'm probably a rookie. So when I talk to people about their experience with, like, say, like, ecstasy, and they would say, like, it just depends on the mood that you're in at the moment. So if you take it, like if you're really pissed off, it may amplify it and you become even more pissed off. You get what I'm saying? But I don't know.
Yeah, the true psychedelics will do that, like psilocybin and DMT or mescaline, ayahuasca. They'll amplify where you're at. So yeah, if you're disturbed and upset and anxious, it can amplify that. You can also use it with therapy to combat those same things, though. But that's a therapeutic use rather than a recreational use. MDMA is a little bit different because it doesn't actually amplify emotions, only empathy.
Really?
It sort of suppresses anxiety.
Okay.
And all the regular kind of things that people worry about, they kind of fall away with MDMA. That's why it's been so useful in a lot of different therapies like relationship counseling, anxiety, depression, and whatnot, because it does allow you to talk about your problems or think about your problems or your life without getting this reactive emotional reaction.
Right.
It kind of suppresses that reaction. So it works in a slightly different way than pure psychedelics. MDMA is more of an empathogen, which is something that engenders a feeling of empathy.
Okay.
So it's not really a true psychedelic.
You spoke about the therapeutic aspects of it, and a buddy of mine, I hope I'm pronouncing this the right way, ayahuasca. Mm-hmm. Did I say it correctly?
Mm-hmm. Ayahuasca, yeah.
He was speaking to me about it, and he was saying that he had tried it, and he said that changed his life. I mean, and this was a guy that he didn't even drink. Like he didn't smoke. Like he was like very like straight laced. And he said he just tried it, and he said it just changed his life. Like he came back. I forgot where he tried it at, but he said he came back to the States, and he ended up getting married. He ended up calling a lot of people and apologizing for some stuff that he had done in the past. And I was like, wow. He said, but he said it takes you through a range of emotions, and it can be kind of scary because it makes you kind of really get very in tune with yourself. Like, do you agree that it has those same effects?
Yeah, I mean, it can be very therapeutic. It depends on the setting again, and it depends on what you're doing. If you do therapy with psychedelics, then you're going to get a therapeutic effect. Okay. I've never done psychedelics therapeutically, like directly for therapy or for problems or anxiety or depression, because I've never really, I've never felt like I needed therapy. So I've always done them as, to just explore my own mind and my own consciousness, and more for creativity and inspiration, and to be inspired by the world, and to be, more involved in people and the things around me. Right, get into it rather than out of it, right?
So you said, I guess my question to you is this: like when you talk about getting in tune with yourself, what was the scariest revelation that you've ever had about your own feelings?
I've never had any really scary revelations about myself or my own psychology or my own, state of mind. I've always felt pretty stable.
Okay.
But I did have one bad acid trip. The very first time I did acid was a nightmare. And I relate this in my book, my new book. It's called Confessions of an Ethical Drug Dealer by Jimi Fritz, available at fine bookstores everywhere. And I relate that story early on in the book, because I was only like 16 years old. And I did this purple microdose. It was 350 mics, it's very, very strong acid. And I had no idea what it was, and I had no idea even what LSD was at the time. And so I had a nightmare experience, probably the worst trip you could possibly imagine. I thought it was dead, I thought it was a lizard, I thought it was insane, I thought it would never come down. It was like a complete nightmare. And so, I mean, I included that in the book because it's the only bad experience that I've ever had on any psychedelic.
Wow.
So, and I put that at the beginning. This is what happens if you don't know what you're doing, if you're completely ignorant, if you do everything wrong. This is how that happens. And then, the rest of the book is really integrating how I've integrated psychedelics into my over 50-year journey, geographically and psychologically in my life, and had nothing but positive results. And then at the end of the book, I sort of do a wrap up of all the different things that are going on with psychedelic therapy in the world today, and all the different advances that are being made in psychedelic psychotherapy and legalization and prohibition and all this. There's lots going on in that area. So yeah, we put the frame psychedelics in terms of life, but I put that bad experience at the beginning as a kind of a warning, right off the bat. Like, this is what happens if you do everything wrong.
Right.
So there's a lot of good information about it. There's no excuse to really. You hear it all the time. Somebody does some acid, and then half an hour later, nothing happens. They do another one, and blah blah blah, and then they have this nightmare. And it's just a big mistake. And people have been making the same mistake for 50 years now, and I don't know. There's no excuse for it anymore, because there's lots of really good information on the internet.
Right.
And or you can read my book, Confessions of an Ethical Drug Dealer.
Available
at fine bookstores everywhere, on Amazon, Google Books, iBooks, Apple Books.
There we go. So before you started experimenting with psychedelics, did anybody ever give you any type of warning about it or anything?
No, not at first. It was just pure experimentation. We'd just go down the pub and somebody would say, "Hey, you want to try this?" And we'd just put them down the neck and see what happened. No, it was completely irresponsible teenage drug use.
Right.
But later on, after that bad experience, I don't think I touched anything for 2 years after that. Nothing. I was terrified.
Wow.
But
so what made you come back?
Timothy Leary and the Beats and Alan Watts and all this literature, psychedelic literature out there. And I learned about the background and the applications, the do's and don'ts, and then got back into it and found that they were actually very useful and quite safe to use if you use them responsibly.
Well, so you said you got off of it for 2 years, right?
Yeah, when I was 16, so probably 16 to 18. Did nothing but that.
So can you think of the incident that made you come back to it?
Come back to that bad experience?
Well, no. That made you try it again after 2 years.
Oh yeah, I was on the beach in Morocco, and camping on the beach, and it was a beautiful location. And like I said, I'd been doing a lot of reading, and so I was curious again. And then somebody came along one day and said, "Hey, we got some LSD. Do you want to try some?" We said, "Sure." So we took some on the beach there. It was a beautiful setting. It was a tropical beach. It was in southern Morocco. It's Tarazout, also known as Banana Beach. And I had a fantastic mind-opening, heart-opening, transcendental experience, and realized, this is what it's about. So that was a fantastic experience, and I never looked back from that.
Okay. Hold on for 1 second, please. All right. Sorry about that. I had to fix something. I also read you know how to play the guitar, right?
Yeah, I've been playing guitar for a long time because I started. I started off quite young. I was hitchhiking around Europe, so I would tour around all the European countries like France and Italian Riviera, French Riviera, the coast of Spain, and play the bars. And I played guitar and harmonica, and I made a living doing that for several years. So that became my kind of way of making money on the road. So I was on the road for many, many years. That was one of the ways I made money.
How did you learn how to play it?
I just learned from a guy in a campsite in Italy. He pulled out his guitar and he was playing songs, and he wasn't much of a singer, I could sing all the songs he could play.
Okay.
So we played together for a little bit, and then I bought my first guitar in Florence, a really cheap, nasty 12-string guitar, and I took 6 strings off it, and he taught me how to play a few songs. So I learned 3 songs, and then 3 weeks later, I was playing on the streets of Rome, and making a living. Just play the same 3 songs over and over again.
Yeah.
People just go by, right? They just keep, new people are walking by all the time. So you can get away with 3 songs for a long time.
Wow. Like I said, dude, the more and more you speak, you become like the coolest motherfucker ever. Like, so you started all this at 15?
Yeah, I left home and left school and left town at 15. And then I went to the south coast of England on a place called Brighton.
Okay.
Which was quite a happening place, actually. There was a lot of young foreign students there, and it was a happening art scene. It was the big the drug capital of southern England. It was the gay capital of England. And so it was kind of an interesting town, and it was a lot of fun, and there was a lot going on there. So I did an apprenticeship to be a chef at that time.
Okay.
And then after that, I started traveling and hitchhiked, all around Europe for several years doing the guitar. But I kept up the playing, of course, and I did. When I first came to Canada, I was, did trios and duos and jazz bands and different musical combos. Played in restaurants and bars and concerts and whatnot. Did that for quite a while, and gave up performing when I first came to Vancouver, because there's not much money in it really, and it's a bit of a thankless task. I mean, I've never played commercial music, right?
Okay.
I don't play dance music. I don't play old favorites. I don't play songs that people know. I play kind of obscure jazz ballads and folk ballads, and it's not really commercial music, so there wasn't much of a living in it, although I love to do it. So what I've done recently in the last few years, I've been making music videos, because I was also a filmmaker for many years. So I made a whole bunch of films, and then I started making music videos of my original songs. So I've got a website called jimifritz.ca.
Okay.
And at that website, you can find download 5 albums of some original songs and some jazz standards, and there's an album of Bob Dylan songs. And then I started making music videos. So I got about 24 music videos on that site.
Okay.
That are all of my original songs, and some of those are duos and trios and full bands, and sort of creative video work. So that was fun. That was lots of fun to do. Okay. JimiFritz.ca.
So, how did how did the psychedelics affect your songwriting?
Well, I think they just loosen up your mind. They just they rewire your brain, and they make you more creative. That's what I found, anyways. That they stimulate creativity through making new neural pathways. So they do actually physically and metaphorically expand your consciousness, because they're making more connections. They're firing on more cylinders. There's more things going on. And so you've got more to work with, more inspiration. It's very inspirational. I mean, take a half a hit of acid and walk through the woods, and you'll get inspired. You'll start thinking, you'll start getting ideas.
Do you think it made you do you think it made you more vulnerable when you wrote?
Yeah, I think it makes you more aware. Yeah, more. I mean, what they do is increase your perception and awareness of the world and of yourself.
Okay.
So yeah, you become if you turn it on yourself, you become more perceptive and aware of yourself. If you turn it on the world, you become more perceptive and aware of the world around you.
Right.
So it works both ways, which is all good. I mean, it's all good fodder for creativity, right? Because you need ideas and perspectives, and you've got to have something to say. Like if I'm going to write a song, I've got to have something to say.
Right.
And I've got to want to say it. So that's the kind of impetus. And yeah, no, psychedelics are definitely a wonderful boon to creativity. I mean, look at the music industry. Where where would we be, where would we wouldn't have we wouldn't have Jimi Hendrix without psychedelics.
No, I mean, you wouldn't have a lot of people. I mean, like you wouldn't
Exactly.
have
Yeah. Of course.
if it wasn't for. I mean, if it wasn't for them, I guess tapping into that inner voice, because I think you said something earlier about being distracted, you know, and when you give yourself the ability to become so focused on one thing, especially when it has something to do with yourself, it's like you open up that door to like really be in tune and really be vulnerable. I think it's something that's needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially something like MDMA, which is much more sort of heart-centered and empathogenic. So that even more so. So some drugs are better for some things than other things, right? I
Right.
find LSD is good for like intellectual stimulation, and MDMA is more like for emotional stimulation. So they all have their, and they're all different. I mean, these drugs, like any drug, they work with your brain chemistry.
Okay.
So some people love LSD and they can't stand psilocybin. Some people love mushrooms and they don't like LSD.
Right.
So, and that's the same with all drugs. It's the same with the prescription drugs too. That's why you have Adderall and Dexedrine and modafinil and Ritalin, and they're all
Yeah.
interchangeable as prescriptions because for one person they work and for one person they don't. You know, so and it depends on your brain chemistry. It's how it works with your jumbo can of neurochemicals
Mhm.
in your brain. And if it works for you, then it works. And that's what people have to learn when they're using psychedelics is you start with a low dose and you see how it goes. And some
Right.
things work for some people and some things don't work for some people. If it's not working, you just drop it. You don't do that anymore. And you find things that work and you find the perfect dosage that works. And then that's how to use them responsibly and safely. You'll never have a problem if you do that.
Right. Is there a such thing as smart drugs and dumb drugs?
Uh-huh. Well, the smart drugs are the ones that increase your perception and awareness,
Which
and
would be what?
and
Which would which,
therefore, well, that would be the psychedelics like LSD, DMT, psilocybin, ayahuasca, mescaline, and there's a whole bunch of new ones now. The 5-MeO, 2CD and 2CB and 2CT3 and 2CT17. There's a whole bunch of like experimental psychedelics that were invented by a chemist called Alexander Shulgin, who died a few years ago, and he spent his career inventing psychedelics. He invented over 300 different compounds. Many of them have never even been tested. So there might be some new psychedelics coming down the pike, but those are the main ones, and those are the ones that get you into it rather than out of it.
okay.
And then you've got the dumb drugs like the opiates and the coke and the crack and the crystal and the speed, which are usually used to escape from your life, whereas psychedelics are used to get more involved with your life.
Okay.
So it's the exact opposite effect, and they're done for completely different reasons. Most people are addicted to opiates. They're trying to mask some trauma. They're self-medicating because they're in psychological pain or physical pain, and they're trying to deal with that. They're trying to get out of their horrible lives. They're on the street. They're nightmare existence, and the
Right.
only relief they get is opiates or crack or crystal for a brief time. They actually get a break. That's the best thing in their life actually, but it's the underlying problems are there. Whereas psychedelics are not done for that reason. They're not done for escapism. They're done to get more involved in your life, not less. That's the
Right.
difference between the dumb drugs and the smart drugs. So if you do smart drugs, you can become smarter. If you do dumb drugs, you might become dumber. If a smart person does dumb drugs for too long, they might become a dumb person doing dumb drugs. And if a dumb person does some smart drugs for long enough, they might end up being a smart person doing smart drugs.
I just got so confused right
That's the general theory. It's a controversial theory, but it's mine.
Right. I mean, I think you broke it down. I think you broke it down very well. Like very well. Like I think about, like you said, how people may resort to using certain drugs because they are trying to escape something instead of deal with it, you know. And I think people don't look at drugs period as something that can help you um, I guess deal with problems. I guess we always look at it like we take the drug to get rid of the problem. You know what I'm saying?
Or mask the symptom, you know.
Right.
So like
Exactly.
antidepressants, for instance, you know, they can, or you know, opiates, you know, they mask this, they mask your pain, psychological pain and physical pain. So, but they don't actually deal with it, right? You
Right.
still have the problem. And now
Right.
you've got a problem of being addicted and withdrawal and not being able to get off and your life in ruins. So, you know, and antidepressants is a similar kind of a situation. They're kind of overprescribed. They
Mm-hmm.
work for some people, and you know, some people they work for, but lots of people they don't work for. And there's a lot of people that are microdosing LSD and psilocybin instead of doing antidepressants because there's much less side effects, and in many cases they're more effective and safer. So I think we're going to see that shift in recent years because there's been an over prescribing of SSRIs, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, the antidepressants that most people are taking now,
Mm-hmm.
and like there's so many people taking these drugs now. They're taking more and more and more. There's problems with suicides, and you know, and then often in some recent meta studies, it's been revealed that they're actually not that effective. You know,
Right.
but some people, yeah, you know, I'm not saying that we should ban them because in sometimes they do help people get through their lives and they help them get through a bad patch, but they're not a permanent solution to the problem. You have to deal with these underlying issues. If you're depressed and anxious, there's a reason for that. So, and then you've got the psychedelics where they can actually expose those things and put you in a receptive, somnambulent state in a
Mm-hmm.
therapeutic situation, and you can deal with those problems and overcome them, and then you don't need the drug. Then
Right.
you can actually solve your problems.
Wow. 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 Like I think that's so enlightening because like I said, I think people just they take drugs and they just lump them into one category. It's just like bad, bad,
Mhm.
bad, bad, you know. Um
Right. Yeah, we have to be much more specific about what we're talking about. People talk about drugs as if it's one thing. I mean, are you talking about an antibiotic? Are you talking about, you know, caffeine? Are you
right,
talking about LSD? Are you talking about crack? You know, these are all drugs. You know, everybody takes drugs for something. Our whole brain runs on drugs. We're a biochemical machine. You know, everything you think and feel is a product of a drug in your brain. So you know we have to learn to operate our brains. We have to learn to use these substances to our maximum benefit, with the you know maximum benefits and the least amount of side effects.
right.
And we're in the process of figuring this out, but we're very slow learners, it seems. You know,
Yeah,
it's taken forever to get people to figure this stuff out, and it's you know sometimes not that complicated.
right. Um what drug do you think um is really responsible for the rave movement?
Oh, MDMA for sure.
Okay.
The rave movement wouldn't have happened without MDMA. Previous to that was like the disco, you know, era. The disco era was fueled by MDA, which was called the love drug at the time,
Okay.
and cocaine, which is much more kind of high intensity energy, you know, dancing all night. So, but MDMA introduced it was a very different drug than MDA, although they sound similar. They're actually very, very different compounds. And it was this feeling of empathy that really changed everything, and that's what created the rave scene, along with the music and the climate of freedom. You could dress up, people dressed up in costumes, and they could dress up any way they wanted or not. You know, everyone was completely free to be who they were, and they
Right.
felt like they could be who they were because there was no judgment. at
Right.
at a rave. There was no judgment, and that's very rare in this society to go
Yes.
anywhere and be in a social
Yes.
situation and not be judged on some level. It was
Exactly.
one of the few places that that ever happened, and it was a really powerful experience for a lot of people.
And it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier when you were speaking about being connected. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That wonderful feeling of being somewhere and being connected. And not just being connected to others, but like being in tune and connected with yourself, your own
exactly.
feelings. You know what I'm saying? So like when you have that feeling along with you're accepted at a like you feel comfortable. It's just like it's a beautiful feeling, you know?
Yeah, well, any psychologist will tell you that the most important aspect for human flourishing and psychological health is social interaction,
Hmm.
meaningful, authentic human connection. That's what makes people happy. That's what makes them flourish.
Right.
That's what gives them a happy life, is that social connection, and not just hanging out, but actually connecting with people on an authentic level
Right.
as yourself, and not to be judged, and to be free
Ah, that's
to
beautiful.
express yourself. And that's what happened at the raves. And a lot of people took that out with them, as I did. I took that back to my everyday life and incorporated it into my regular life. So now I have a lot of very close friends and authentic relationships, and I'm wonderfully psychologically healthy.
Hey, and I commend you and I congratulate you for that, man. That's
All right.
awesome. I do want to ask you this, man, and basically, how did you manage to deal drugs for 50 years without getting busted not once?
Well, it was because I had a very, very tight circle of friends. I mean, I wasn't selling to anybody. And a lot of people, would contact me and say, can you do this, that, and the other thing? And I'd say no. So I only dealt with people that I trusted. I only dealt with people that, trusted or loved, or, had a really good connection with. And that was the key. I wasn't like, I wasn't like dealing to everybody, and I wasn't trying to grow and expand and make more and more money. I was doing it more as like a public service, because I had a large group of people that were interested in these substances, and I wanted to make sure that they got really high quality drugs. So that was the impetus. And because I was dealing with people that felt grateful that I was providing that service, then there was no sketchy element. I've never dealt with sketchy people. I've only dealt Most of my customers were they were doctors, they were lawyers, they were professional people, they were intellectuals, basically artists. So there were people that I trusted, and there were people that trusted me. So when you have that circle of trust, and it's nothing to do with what's going on in the street. It's nothing
Right.
to do with what the police are doing. The police are looking for criminals. The police are looking for, dangerous people with guns and
Yeah.
you know on the street selling nasty drugs to addicts and ruining lives. That's what the police, and that's good, because that's what they should be concentrated on.
Right.
I wasn't, I wasn't part of that scene ever, and so I wasn't really a threat to society in that way. So I think that's why I just never attracted any attention, because I was not doing anything to attract attention.
It's a smart way to move. It's definitely a smart way to move. How? I mean, you spoke about the police. How is Vancouver? How are they dealing with the old drug? I don't want to say war or whatever. Well, what is their stance on it? Like as far as the decriminalization of it or legalization of it, whatever you want to call it.
Well, marijuana is recreational marijuana is completely legal now
Okay.
in
I got you.
Canada. It's only the second country in the world to legalize the recreational use of marijuana,
Okay.
along with Uruguay. So Canada's pretty progressive in that way. In Vancouver, in the city of Vancouver, they've just recently decriminalized possession of all drugs.
Wow.
So that's where we're going. And this is happening in lots of other cities right now, too.
Okay.
There's been new developments in lots of American cities now. They're doing it on a, city level. They're just, the police are just tired of dealing with it. They're just tired of dragging these poor people out of
Right.
houses and busting them and putting them through the system. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't help anything. It doesn't help their problem. It doesn't, it creates more problems in a lot of ways. Prohibition has created many more problems than it's solved. So a lot of people
Sure.
move into decriminalization and legalization all over the world now, and it's happening very, very quickly. So I think in the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to see massive changes in that area.
Okay. I mean, like, I do agree with you that it's bigger things we can be focused on than arresting people for drugs.
Yeah.
Um, I definitely feel that. So I really only have one more question. Well, a couple more questions for you. So, what were your initial feelings when you heard about the legalization of marijuana?
Well, it's something that we've been campaigning for since the 60s.
Okay.
Trying to legalize marijuana. We've been calling for that since the 60s. I mean, I was marching marching like 50 years ago about this. So in that way, it was a great victory, and I think it's a good thing.
Okay.
It hasn't been entirely successful in that, there are problems with the supply chain and stuff, and the pot's not that good, and the quality, and it's not as good as what you could buy in the underground, right? Because these people around BC, I mean, the BC economy has been fueled by the marijuana industry for
Mhm.
decades, and it's huge. And there's all these people that have been growing the highest quality marijuana in the world for a long time. And a lot of those people have been squeezed out of the legal market because it's mostly these big companies that are coming in that can afford $2 million to set up a state of
Yep.
the art hydroponic system to sell
Yep.
to the government. So there's some problems, but there's still a black market going on. There's still an underground. So we've got the best of both worlds now, really. I mean, and
Right.
the big plus for legalization and decriminalization is that people aren't going to jail for marijuana anymore. I mean,
Right.
nobody should be in jail for
I
smoking.
agree.
I
I
mean,
agree.
so just that aspect alone, it's worth the teething problems and the secondary problems that might come, with full legalization. But it's yeah, I mean that's a big step in the right direction. Nobody should be going to jail for smoking weed.
I totally agree. I feel like no one should be going to jail for it, and I also feel like the people that have already been incarcerated for it should be let out. You
Yeah,
know,
well, they're doing that in Canada now. They're letting people out that are
that's
serving sentences for possession.
that's
Dealers are
that's
still illegal, and they'll still bust dealers, but the users, the end, people just smoking joints with their family or whatever,
yeah,
they're letting them out and they're giving them pardons, which is also good because then they don't have a criminal record now.
that's good. They should be giving joints too, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
another
Well, they're
story.
doing that as well. They give away free joints to the homeless people in Vancouver. They
Are
go
you
around. They go around with big Tupperware containers full of pre-rolled joints,
are you
and
serious?
they give them to all the street people.
What?
That's a fact. Yeah. And the idea is they're trying to wean. They're trying to use it to wean people off opiates.
Okay, okay. You know what?
So I
I
don't know
might,
how well that's working, but I mean they're happy about it.
I bet you they are. I bet you they are. I might have to steal that idea. I had to
Yeah,
suggest we do that here.
yeah, no, I mean, it's happening more and more. And I mean, I get all these newsletters and news feeds about what's going on in psychedelic, in the laws changing and whatnot. And it's just so much information going on right now. All these cities legal. Seattle just legalized psilocybin mushrooms. Um, the Colorado have legalized some psychedelics. It's just everywhere now, and it's happening on so many levels.
That's awesome.
So
Well, Jimmy,
we're going in the right direction, I think. It's
yes.
taking us 50 years to get there because we're so slow, but eventually we'll get there. And I think in another, 20 or 30 years, we'll be seeing lots of prescription psychedelics MDMA will be a prescription medication for PTSD within the next year. It's on the final approval stage, and it's been fast tracked by the FDA.
Oh
as a
man.
substance with exceptional potential. It's a special designation that they've given it to push it over the line and get it as a prescription medication. It's got all these people coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq and whatnot, and they've all got PTSD, and they just nothing works, right?
Right.
So they took the most hopeless cases and went through all these studies. It's taken 25 years. They started doing these studies 25 years ago, and now they're finally coming to fruition. It's just coming over the line very, very soon. So MDMA as a prescription medication for PTSD is just around the corner.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Jimmy, I would really sincerely like to thank you for your time because
Okay.
I'm a firm believer that time is way more valuable than money. Because
Yep.
you can always get money back, can't get time back. And I appreciate you giving me your time, giving us your time, and thank you for all the knowledge that you dropped on us. And I think that I'm definitely going to steal that idea about passing out those free joints.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't get arrested. Can you let everybody know once again where to find the book at? Not only just Confessions of an Ethical Drug Dealer, but also Rave Culture.
Yeah, so the two books are Rave Culture and Insider's Overview by Jimi Fritz. The new book is Confessions of an Ethical Drug Dealer by Jimi Fritz. And you can find everything, all my stuff is on a website now at jimifritz.ca. And you'll find everything there. And you'll find some albums you can download. You'll find some of my movies, all my music videos, and both the books and a bunch of other stuff too. So check out jimifritz.ca.
Awesome. Super awesome. Thank you once again, Jamie, man. I really do appreciate it. Much luck, and success to you in the future. And just stay a cool cat, man, because I think I'm going to find me a poster of you and I'm going to hang it up on my walls, like I said.
All right. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
No, thank you. Later, Jimmy.
Okay. Cheers. Ciao.
Bye. Yo, thanks for everybody for tuning in. Had some technical difficulties. Thanks to my man Terrence for walking me through that. Hopefully things come out the way they supposed to come out, because that was an awesome conversation with my man Jimi Fritz. Learned some stuff that I didn't know about. Made me think about some things. I don't know. I might go get high. I might. Y'all think about it. I mean, like, think about what he was saying as far as the bad rap that psychedelics do get compared to, well, when he talked about smart drugs and dumb drugs. I mean, I thought that was an awesome breakdown. Yeah, just definitely something to think about. So shout out to my man Bubba Ball. Couldn't be on this podcast now. Has some stuff he got to do. Shout out to my radio Chicago. Y'all can check us out every Thursday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. with the Shits Radio, supported by Support District Radio. Y'all download the app. Y'all can check us out on the Block 105 Radio, www.block105.com. Also hit up the website, the Shits Podcast. And like I said, all independent artists send those MP3s in to dopemusicshits@gmail.com. If you want to get your music played on the radio station, my radio Chicago, dope radio station. Hey, some dope personalities. They got playing dope music. We playing new music, playing exclusive shit. So y'all got to check it out. So, yeah, with that being said, y'all, that is my time. And I would like to thank y'all for checking this out. And we will holler at y'all later. It's the shit.